long ago, when animals still spoke like humans, when the moon bent low to listen to the earth and wisdom traveled on the wind through the palm trees of Igboland, there lived a tortoise. In the villages of southeastern Nigeria in Western Africa, he was known by many names. Some called him clever, others called him wise. But if you listened carefully when the elders spoke, you would hear the truth hidden beneath their laughter. He was greedy. His name was Mbe. Now Mbe loved food more than he loved friendship. He loved it more than he loved honor. If there was a ceremony in the village, he would arrive before the drummers. If there was a wedding, he would sit closest to the cooking pots. If soup was shared, his bowl somehow grew larger than everyone else's. Yet he always spoke gently, always smiled, always pretended to care. One year, during the dry season when the harmattan dust floated like smoke in the air, the birds began to prepare for something extraordinary. Word had come from the sky people. There would be a great feast in the sky. Not an ordinary feast, a celebration of peace between the sky and the earth. The food would be sweeter than ripe mango, richer than the thickest palm nut soup. There would be pounded yam as white as cloud, roasted meats dripping with spice, and delicacies unknown to those who walked on land. Every bird received an invitation. Tortoise heard the news while pretending to nap beneath a tree. One eye opened, then the other. A feast in the sky. His stomach tightened with desire, but there was a problem. Tortoise could not fly. He thought long and hard. Then he began visiting the birds one after another. "My dear friends," he would say softly, "have we not lived together in peace on this earth? When you go to the sky, should there not be someone to represent the land animals? Someone wise, someone diplomatic?" The birds exchanged looks. They knew Tortoise. They knew his smooth tongue, but he sounded reasonable. At last they agreed on one condition. Each bird would lend him one feather so he too could travel to the sky. One by one, they plucked feathers and attached them carefully to Tortoise's shell. Red feathers, blue feathers, white and gold. Soon he was covered in beautiful wings, brighter than a festival masquerade. When the wind lifted him from the ground for the first time in his life, Tortoise felt powerful. As they rose higher and higher, floating toward the clouds, a thought formed in his clever mind. "If I arrive as Tortoise, I will eat like Tortoise," he muttered to himself, "but if I arrive as something greater—" Just before they reached the gates of the sky, he cleared his throat. "My friends," he said calmly, "in the sky, names carry meaning. It would be wise if each of us chose a special name for this occasion, a name that commands respect." The birds liked the idea. One called himself Strongwing, another chose Bright Feather, another said Swiftwind. Then they turned to Tortoise. "And what shall your name be?" He smiled slowly. "My name," he said, "shall be all of you." The birds did not fully understand, but the clouds were near and the scent of food drifted toward them, so they paid little attention. When they arrived, the sky people welcomed them with joy. Long tables stretched across the clouds. Plates shimmered in the sunlight. The aroma of rich soups and roasted meats filled the air so thickly it made the head spin. A great host stood and raised his arms. "Welcome, honored guests. This feast is prepared for all of you." Tortoise stepped forward immediately and bowed deeply. "Thank you," he said loudly. "I am all of you." Before confusion could settle on the birds' faces, Tortoise sat down and began to eat. He scooped pounded yam into his mouth. He swallowed soup without chewing. He grabbed meat with both hands and stuffed it between his lips. The birds stared in disbelief. Each time one of them reached toward a plate, Tortoise would raise his head and say calmly, Ah, did you not hear? The feast is for all of you." And he would continue eating. The sky people assumed this strange creature had some special honor. After all, he had spoken confidently. Tortoise ate until his stomach stretched tight against his shell. He ate until sweat formed on his brow. He ate until his breathing grew heavy and slow. When at last he leaned back, rubbing his belly, the tables were nearly empty. The birds had barely tasted a thing. Hunger burned in their throats, but anger burned hotter in their hearts. Not one word was spoken. When it was time to return to Earth, the birds gathered silently. Then, one by one, they stepped toward Tortoise. Without argument, without shouting, they began removing their feathers. The red feather was pulled away, then the blue, then the white, then the gold. With each feather removed, Tortoise felt lighter in beauty, but heavier in fear. "Wait," he said nervously. "What are you doing, my friends?" They did not answer. Soon he stood alone on the clouds, round and wingless. The birds rose into the air. "Do not leave me here," he cried. "How will I return home?" But the birds were already flying downward, their wings beating with steady rhythm. Tortoise waddled to the edge of the sky and looked down. The earth seemed very far away. His stomach was too full to think clearly. His shell felt heavier than stone. In desperation, he called down toward his village. "Wife, wife, if you can hear me, bring out all the soft things in our house. Lay out the mats, the cloth, the leaves. I must jump." Far below, his wife heard a faint voice carried by the wind. Recognizing her husband's tone of panic, she rushed outside. She gathered sleeping mats, old clothes, soft palm leaves, anything she could find. She spread them across the ground carefully. Then she stepped back and looked up. Tortoise closed his eyes. He jumped. Down he fell, tumbling through the sky like a heavy stone. The wind rushed past his ears. His stomach lurched. Then, crack! He hit the earth with a terrible sound. The mats scattered. The leaves flew. The ground trembled. When the dust cleared, Tortoise lay there groaning. His beautiful shell had shattered into pieces. His wife ran to him in horror. Carefully, she gathered each broken piece. She called for the village healer, who worked patiently, fitting each fragment back together. The shell was restored, but the cracks remained, and to this very day, if you look closely at a tortoise's back, you will see those lines crossing his shell. They are reminders that greed may fill your stomach for a moment, but it can break you forever. So when you sit at a table meant for many, remember, Tortoise. When something is given for all of you, take only your share, for a person may be clever, but without character, even the sky will not carry them safely home.